Can you tell me what the conditions were that existed so that in 1981 you could start such a war?
The people had been completely disillusioned politically. They had no hope of any correction of their problems through the system as it was, and their only hope was through armed struggle. And then when we came and offered them the option, they were willing to support it, willing and eager to support it.
At the moment we're with the NRA approaching Mbale, which is the first major town in the north of Uganda. The NRA secured Tororo just south of here, about 12 miles, and we're now walking along the road, or as you can see we've stopped. We're about to try and take a bridge just lying ahead of us. The NRA have been advancing for the past half hour with a heavy firefight. So far we haven't come across any enemy. They appear to be retreating to the town of Mbale, which apparently has been totally run over.
He was killed by a machine gun while he was withdrawing.
And where was he withdrawing from?
From our fire.
Where were you firing from? Which place?
I really don't know the area, but it's about how many kilometers is it from Mbale?
It's about 12 kilometers from Mbale.
Where are you advancing to now?
We are advancing to Mbale.
And are you finding much resistance?
Not really.
Not really.
Are they fighting very well or not very well?
Not actually. These people are only running away. They had not yet got enough fire to beat them up.
So if they're running away, why this afternoon was there this big battle?
It was not actually a big battle compared to what we have been fighting. Let's say in Kampala and areas like Masinda and so on. This has just been a simple battle.
Do you think there are many more battles ahead of you?
I really doubt.
You think that after Mbale falls, that...
Yeah. I think these people will start running away.
Yeah. And could you describe the behaviour of the UNLA during their retreat? For instance, what happened at Mbale a few weeks back?
Oh, they murdered a lot of people. It is estimated they murdered about 300 people. Indiscriminately, children, women, men. And they didn't even bury them as usual. They left them lying in the streets. So it was another horror story.
Why are they doing this, do you think?
I have no idea. It's their mentality. I have no idea. I cannot see any rationale behind what they are doing. Because it does not do them any good. It can't stop the war. So I really don't know why they are doing what they are doing. I think it may be because of primitive leadership. Fellows who are primitive. Intellectually, and who may think that maybe by killing they will frighten the population, or maybe just outright revenge, thinking that since you don't support us, we kill you in revenge.
Now, could you tell me what makes the National Resistance Army so different from the UNLA? I mean, we've seen various things in the streets, roadblocks and so on, for instance. Could you tell me what is it that makes it so different?
The ideas of the leaders, which are in unison with the interests of the population. I think that's what makes the difference. And if the leaders had wrong ideas, if we had wrong ideas, the NRA would be as bad as all the previous armies.
And perhaps could you tell me about the code of conduct of your men, how they behave differently towards the population? What makes them different, and why do the people see them as being a different sort of army?
Well, the code of conduct, we are the ones who drew it up. It's simply tells soldiers what to do and what not to do, that's all. It's an ordinary code, but in our circumstances it is extraordinary because things have been not working properly. But otherwise it's a normal code. Don't do this, don't do that, don't kill people, don't rob them, that's all. Simple.
Do many northerners living in Bantu areas fear for their lives at the moment? Is there much fear?
At this moment, I would say a few percentage maybe still do fear for their lives, because they're not quite sure of what is going on. They're not quite sure if they can trust Museveni's army. They feel that maybe they would turn against them if they cannot get through to Gulu. They feel as if maybe they would come back and kill all of them.
But from what you've seen of the NRA, do you think that's a possibility?
No, I don't think that is a possibility. I feel that the NRA have started out in the right direction, because I have not seen them do anything, and I have not seen them bring any harm to the Choli civilians that are in the areas that they have dominated.
Is that what you think Mr. Museveni wants? You think he wants a job in this government?
It is not me who brought that question, it's you. It's you who brought that question, that why should I talk to Museveni? I said it's not a personal matter as far as I'm concerned.
But what do you think Yoweri Museveni wants through fighting? What is he after?
I don't know. If I knew, I would be very happy, because I really don't know. Museveni was a member of the military commission. He was number 2 in the military commission. He and the rest of the members of the military commission organized elections. And soon after elections, he decided to fight. And he hasn't progressed very much. In his own area where he was born, he's not effective, he's not known, and he's a refugee himself in another part of Uganda. So I really don't know what he wants.
Whatever the wrongs of his case, wouldn't it save a lot of life and a lot of money to talk to him?
I told you it is not a personal matter. Why do you think Museveni is all that important in this country?
So far, President Obote has refused to hold talks with the NRM. If he were to change his mind, would you be prepared to negotiate with him?
We can negotiate with anybody, even with the devil, for the sake of Uganda. Because if it is cheaper to talk with, we are talking with all sorts of people. We talk with Foster, this man of Bota of South Africa. Samara Machel has been talking to him. We talk to all sorts of people. If Obote wants to cheapen the cost of the war by talking, then we can talk to him. What matters is what would we talk about. I think that's what is more important, the content of the negotiations.
Exactly. Do you believe that you could actually achieve your aims through negotiations?
We may or may not. It depends on how weak Obote is. If we have weakened Obote sufficiently to be able to force him to do what we want, it can be done through negotiations, and that will save that amount of blood that would be shed to ensure a complete overthrow of Obote.
Uganda made substantial progress between 1982 and 1985, but its human rights situation worsened. Mr. Obote was unable to control the military. In 1984, reports of atrocities by Mr. Obote's troops increased. The military waged an increasingly violent campaign against the National Resistance Army, led by former Defense Minister Yoweri Museveni. Thousands of civilians were slaughtered by government troops.
Now, as we've said before, you do go and see the parishioners that you've got left, of some 5,000 of them. What sort of support do they have for the guerrillas? I mean, are they supporting the guerrillas actively, or are they scared of them, or how exactly do they feel about the NRA? And how do they feel about the army, come to that?
They have come to get a difference. You know, the NRA is not killing them, is not harassing them, and they try to explain to them why there is a war. But the others, when they come, they simply kill, because they say, those who are staying in here, who stayed in here, whereas the others have run away, you are supporting the guerrillas, then they are being harassed by the government forces. So that's why they have a better feeling for the guerrillas, because they think these ones are fighting for us. And even many of their sons are soldiers in the NRA.
Are you receiving any sort of external support? Supply of weapons or munitions, for example?
No, we are not getting any external supplies of weapons. If we were doing that, this war would have been over long ago.
Nemi, you're an Acholi. Tell me, what fears do the Acholis have of this situation where the NRA are moving into their lands? What's their big worry?
I would think that their big worry is that they don't want to be dominated by the Bantus. They feel that, you know, throughout in the past, the Acholis have suffered too much. A lot of them have been killed during Amin's time, and up to now, they still would like to be on top. And so it seems as if they can't come together to an understanding of their differences.
And why should they fear the Bantus? Why should the Acholis worry about the Bantus?
Well, throughout history, you know, there've been a lot of tribal warfare, and now that this country is a nation, they feel as if, you know, they are, should I say, the rightful owners to the seat. Each one has this dislike against, you know, their neighbor because of differences in language and tradition.
Do you think that the Acholis will be able to share power, though, with the Bantus or the NRM?
I think that, yes, they would be able to share power if only they could come to an understanding of one another, to see what Uganda really needs, instead of, you know, fighting one another and disagreeing, or one tribe dominating the whole country. They should try to share, you know, the power within the country.
Is there perhaps also a danger then of a Bantu backlash? I mean, certainly when we were with your forces when they moved towards Mbale, the places that have been newly liberated, and many of the people there who are predominantly Bantu people were saying, well, it's about time that these Nilotics were taught a lesson. So if the trouble isn't coming from the Nilotics, perhaps it could come from the Bantu people.
Who will teach them a lesson? We won't allow it. We won't allow it. Who will teach them a lesson? Anybody who tries to teach the Nilotic people a lesson will learn a lesson from us. So,
what most people don't understand is when you have a common burden, all of us, it doesn't matter whether we're what age, what religion, what tribe, but if there is a big burden above us all, we all bind together. We bind together so strongly, you wouldn't tell one from the other.
Do you believe that you have the capacity to win this war in the near future?
Very much so. Very much so. Even now we can kick Obote out of Kampala. Even now we can kick Obote out of Kampala. But we shall invite a lot of problems. So we need more preparation so that if we kick Obote out of Kampala, we are able to control the whole country.
What are your problems at the moment?
Well, we need to do more organization, more preparation, more weapons, more manpower, which is trained and well led, because having trained people who are not properly led is a problem. And we do not want to get in the same situation as Obote is in now.
The bottom line is that the liberation forces are to liberate people, the people of Uganda, the region and Africa, so that people can be free to do their thing in peace, express themselves without fear. That is the only way communities can grow. If we are all terrorized and hiding in the forests and under our beds, we cannot think, we cannot grow. So this is what was infused into us. It's what we infused into those that came after us. And we hope that they will infuse it to those that will come after them, so that we can make sure this shield stays to protect our people from strength to strength. Kampala was a very, very interesting story because I have a recollection. We were the chairman of the High Command and had invited us for a planning group to plan the final assault on Kampala. But before we could conclude, we were getting information that the troops were already hitting Busega. But the troops actually did not hit Busega out of indiscipline. The enemy was running away. So the battlefield commander was saying, if they have run, then we must cover this. So we were forced to quickly disperse, and then get on to the capture of Kampala.
January 1986, I cannot forget. I had just finished my undergrad at Makerere University, and I was teaching assistant, and I was leaving off campus. I was teaching assistant at Makerere, but I was living off campus. And the news kept coming in that this group of soldiers are getting closer and closer. So you would go to work not knowing whether you would spend the whole day there. You'd just be prepared. Just in case it gets really hot, you prepare to run. And the day that they did enter, I didn't go to work because we could hear it was very close. It was very close. So we stayed at home, and very soon we began to hear excitement in the street. First of all, there was a lot of shooting. Shooting, which was frightening. So we stayed in the home. I was living with some family, and then we had excitement and people in the streets, and jubilating, and so we peeped looked out of the window and saw these really young people, so skinny and so dark. And what I remember, what the picture I still remember, because I was living not far from Wandege, there was this line of young people walking with long guns. Some guns were heavier than they could carry, and they were wearing shirts. Yes, one arm out. And they looked so weird, but they looked so happy. So of course we joined the excitement. We go, this is NRA, they have liberated Kampala. I mean, it was a party on the streets.
I, Yoweri Museveni, do solemnly swear that I will well and truly exercise the functions of the high office of the President of the Republic of Uganda, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Uganda, and that I will preserve and defend the Constitution, and that I will do right to all manner of people, so help me God. I don't want to say much today, except to make a few points. One, nobody should think that what is happening today, or what has been happening in the last few days, is a mere change of guards. This is not a mere change of guards. I think this is a fundamental change in the politics of our country. Because in Africa we have seen so much change that change has become meaningless. It's no longer change but merely turmoil. This group getting rid of that group, and that group doing worse than the group it got rid of. Now, please, do not count us in that category of people. The National Resistance Movement, I think, is a clear-headed movement with clear objectives and with good membership. Of course, we may have some bad elements even among us, because we are part and parcel of the society of Uganda as it is. And in that way, you may not be able to completely guard against infiltration by the wrong elements. But since it is the deliberate policy of our movement to ensure that we uplift the quality of the politics of our country, I think it makes a very big difference from the situation in which we were, where the very people in power were they themselves encouraging evil instead of trying to combat evil. I think this is a slightly different situation. You may not be familiar with our program because it has been mainly in the bush, where many of you did not have access. And I cannot go through it in this ceremony, but I can just point out a few salient points in our program. Point number one on our program is the restoration of democracy.
The people of Africa, the people of Uganda, are entitled to democratic government. It is not a favor from any regime. It is the right of Africa to have democratic government all over the place. The people should be able to hire and fire any government. The sovereign people in the land must be the population, not the government. The government should not be the masters, but the servants of the population.
From your knowledge, of past governments, you've been here a couple of years and have seen, this is the third government, I believe, that you've seen. In your estimation, will this government last? Has it got a chance of staying in power for more than a few months?
It is always difficult to predict the longevity of governments, particularly in difficult countries such as in Africa. But I think undeniably there is a new atmosphere here, which we've experienced in Kampala. There is a new optimism which I have not experienced in the 2 years I've been here, and therefore I think, from my personal experience, this government stands a much better chance of achieving its goals.
When you say there's a new atmosphere here, specifically, how do you mean? What has really changed on the ground?
I think one specific reason must be that before Uganda has suffered from an army, if it could be described as an army, that was unruly, ill-disciplined, and possibly not under the full control of previous governments. And it was a group of armed men who would go around causing tremendous problems for the civilian population. What we have noticed now in these last few weeks is this relationship with the present army is much different. People no longer walk in fear of seeing armed men in uniform.
President Museveni, can you tell me what's the situation regarding the NRA's advance into the north of Uganda against the UNLA?
Yesterday our forces captured the town of Soroti after some heavy fighting the previous day. Now they are some miles northwest of Soroti. On the western side, our forces are near Karuma. We have not taken the bridge itself. We have not even made an attempt to take the bridge yet by assault, but we are just softening them with artillery. But further west we have reached the River Nile.
So, I mean, in many ways, recently people have been starting to say that this is a tribal war of Bantus against Nilotics. What do you say to people that say that?
That wouldn't be tribal in the first place. Maybe you would say it would be linguistic. It can't be tribal because these tribes which they call Bantu tribes are numerous, and so are the ones which they call Nilotic tribes. So it wouldn't be tribal even then. But is it a linguistic conflict? It certainly isn't. Because you find on our side, for instance, there are many commanders from the north of Uganda who are fighting with us now, apart from the ordinary people.
Most of the people who are coming back here, how do they feel about this NRA government?
They are in appreciation, in fact. They are appreciating. They are happy.
Is it better than the UNLA?
Very much. Very much. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coming back.
Were you here during the UNLA's time?
No, I was in Mubende.
But from the stories you've heard from these people, what was it like?
They destroyed almost everybody. They destroyed life and property.
Why were they doing that?
We don't know. I can't tell.
Do you think it was because they came from the north, or?
Not because of that, no. I think they had poor leading, which brought poor violence to them.
The next bit of fight was in Gulu. I remember I was instructed to detach, I think, 100 or 200 soldiers from my unit to reinforce Gulu. And then when Gulu was captured, we linked up in Pakwach and continued through to Arua. But war is war, combat is combat. It's good once you have dislodged the enemy, but also get injuries, you get casualties. And yeah.
There will be some challenges, but I'm sure they will be overcome. There will be challenges, remnants of sections trying to perpetuate the sectarian politics. But that one, those I'm sure we shall defeat them. There could be attempts at foreign interference. by interests which are afraid of this new experiment, of this new phenomenon. I wouldn't even say call it experiment. I think it is a phenomenon on the African scene. It's a historical phenomenon, which is a direct result of recent African history. So some interests which are frightened by this may try to interfere in our affairs, and we shall struggle against them. And in the end, I'm definitely sure we shall emerge on top of these problems. Some problems en route, of course.
What are your greatest hopes for the future?
What is hope for the future is to build a united Uganda, which is prosperous as far as industry and agriculture are concerned, and which has got a balanced economy, and in partnership with the other East African countries, in order to exploit the big market of East and Central Africa.